Welcome to another episode of The Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the British Post Office scandal, which is described as a miscarriage of justice involving the wrongful civil and criminal prosecution of an unknown or unpublished number of subpostmasters for theft, false accounting, and or fraud. The case constitutes the most widespread miscarriage of justice in British legal history, spanning a period of over 20 years. Aspects of the scandal remain unresolved. And guess what? The worst part about this was a software bug that caused all these sub-postmasters to be convicted of theft, false accounting, and or fraud. So let's get into this crazy topic. So welcome to the Bug Bite, right? I'm Tech Coach Ralph, and today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the British Post Office scandal. But before we do that, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live, like the video, share the video, and definitely check out the Patreon so you can see all the cool exclusive content that we are dropping in there just for you, so you can level up your career, so you can, so you can do better, continue to grow, continue to get better. And, check out the opportunities for one-on-one coaching calls with me where I can help you, get to the next level. But let's get back to the British Post Office scandal. So let's start at the beginning, right? The British Post Office scandal is a miscarriage of justice involving the wrongful civil and criminal prosecution of an unknown or unpublished number of sub-postmasters for theft, false accounting, and or fraud. The case constitutes the most widespread miscarriage of justice in British legal history, spanning a period of over 20 years. Aspects of the scandal remain unresolved. A group action, which is the English equivalent of a class action, was brought by the SPMs, the sub-postmasters, in London's High Court. 555 sub-postmasters successfully sued the post office. This resulted in two important judgments in favor of the sub-postmasters. Since then, the convictions have been overturned, compensation for the other sub-postmasters who did not take part in the case, and what has now become a public inquiry into what happened, which is still ongoing. The first important judgment in the group action was handed down on the 15th of March 2019 and was about the contracts between the post office and the sub-postmasters and whether the post office could carry on making sub-postmasters liable for gaps in the accounting on the post office's Horizon software system, even when the cause of those gaps or shortfalls were unknown. The judge, Mr. Justice Fraser, gave a comprehensive and detailed judgment running to 1,122 paragraphs in which he analyzed the legal relationship. The judge found overwhelmingly in favor of the sub-postmasters as well as a victory for the sub-postmasters. It also considered an important case for lawyers because the judge held that the post office owed sub-postmasters an implied duty of good faith and fair dealing. The second important judgment was about whether the Horizon computer system worked and was robust, which the post office claimed it was. Again, the judge found overwhelmingly in favor of the sub-postmasters and that the original version of Horizon was not robust. And as to the later version, its robustness was questionable at best and did not justify the confidence placed in it by the post office in terms of accuracy. Since then, those convictions and many others have been overturned on the grounds that they are not only unsafe, but the prosecutions were an affront to the public conscience. By 2022, 736 prosecutions had been identified, 83 convictions had been overturned, and more were expected to be quashed. The number of those affected by other types of abuse by the post office, torts, breach of contract, coercion, etc., has not been tabulated or published. The prosecution, civil actions, and extortions resulted in criminal convictions, false confessions, imprisonments, defamation, loss of livelihood, bankruptcy, divorce, and suicide. In 1996, International Computers Limited, ICL, began working on a computer accounting system called Horizon for the publicly owned Post Office Corporation and the Department of Social Security so that there could be integrated payment of Social Security benefits through the system. However, the Department of Social Security rejected the system, but the government continued with its procurement for the use by the post office anyways. So, take a break real quick, right? International Computers Limited, they were working on the computer accounting software called Horizon, right? And they were going to have, they were like making it for the post office and for the Department of Social Security. However, the Department of Social Security said, nope, we're not using this. We don't like the software, but the government pursued it for the post office, all right? So let's keep going. By 1996, ICL was part of Fujitsu. In 1999, the problems began with Horizon's introduction, which wrongly detected the existence of financial discrepancies at multiple post office branches. Second Sight's forensic accountant report of the 2014 described the Horizon computer system as not fit for purpose, while the post office stated that there is absolutely no evidence of any systemic issue with the computer system. The post office terminated the initial complaint review and mediation scheme in 2015 and published a report clearing themselves of any wrongdoing. So the post office is standing by their software, right? They said, we have absolutely no evidence that this is a problem and we are going to use it and you are going to accept it, all right? The post office became a freestanding company with a single stakeholder or a single shareholder, the British government. Initially, the government refused to pay any compensation, but the post office and government repeatedly stated that the money awarded when the subpostmasters sued the post office was a full and final settlement. After appeals by MPs in 2021, the government promised financial compensation to the victims of the scandal, as the post office itself did not have sufficient resources. It looks like in every country, the post office is utterly and completely broke, but it is what it is. So let's keep going. It was the condition of the original settlement agreed in the group action above that the post office would set up a separate historical shortfall scheme to compensate subpostmasters who did not take part in the group action. The post office did so, and that scheme went on to attract more than 2,400 claims. Whew, this is a big fallout. The scheme excluded the 555 subpostmasters who had successfully sued the post office. As of February 2022, no commitment to compensate those 555 subpostmasters exists. On the 22nd of March 2022, a government scheme was launched to compensate the 555 subpostmasters at the same level of compensation as the other subpostmasters. However, many of them are still awaiting full compensation for what happened to them. So when you sue the government, you're not always going to get your money if you can even win, right? In 2020, the government had initiated an independent inquiry led by retired Judge Wayne Williams. After two initial hearings, it was converted to a public inquiry in June 2021. In November 2021, it held a preliminary list of issues hearing, and in February 2022, commenced with a series of human impact hearings and is also investigating whether the post office and software supplier Fujitsu knew about the faults in the IT system, which led to the now quashed criminal convictions and civil proceedings against staff. The inquiry was aimed to be completed by autumn 2022, but it is still ongoing as of 2023. So now they're investigating whether the post office and Fujitsu knew that this was an existing thing, and they had people convicted and sent to jail for no apparent reason, only to cover their own butt. All right. So let's take a quick look at the overview, right? In 1999, the UK Post Office, part of the Royal Mail, introduced a computer accounting system called Horizon, developed by the Japanese company Fujitsu. From February 2003 to February 2010, Royal Mail was under the leadership of Adam Korzer, its CEO. On the 1st of April 2012, the Post Office Ltd. became independent of Royal Mail Group and was reorganized to become a subsidiary of Royal Mail Holding, which is a separate management and board of directors. By 2013, Horizon was used by at least 11,500 branches and was processing some 6 million transactions every single day. From 1999, subpostmasters began reporting unexplained discrepancies and losses. The post office maintained that Horizon was robust and that none of the discrepancies were due to Horizon. They are sticking by their software. Some subpostmasters unwilling to or unable to make good of the shortfalls were prosecuted by the post office for theft, false accounting, and fraud. Between 1991 and 2015, there were 918 successful prosecutions. These were largely private prosecutions by the post office relying on IT evidence alone without proof of criminal intent. Public prosecution also occurred in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the Crown Court. Some sub-postmasters were persuaded by their own solicitors to plead guilty to false accounting on being told the post office would drop theft charges. Once the post office had a criminal conviction, it would attempt to secure a proceeds of Crime Act order against convicted sub-postmasters, allowing it to seize their assets and bankrupt them. So this was a drift, right? Like, it was a play. They pretty much took the belongings of the sub-postmasters and bankrupt them. According to the press report, these actions by the post office caused the loss of dozens of jobs, bankruptcy, divorce, unwarranted prison sentence, and one suicide. One suicide is too damn much, all right? In 2019, the Horizon issued trial judgment in the Bates and others versus Post Office Ltd. Group litigation at the High Court found that software errors and defects did in fact exist, and that it was possible for these to cause apparent discrepancies or shortfalls in branch accounts or transactions to undermine the reliability of Horizon accurately to process and record transactions. Mr. Justice Frazier found that this had happened on numerous occasions, so not only one time. So the software was the issue, right? And with poor testing, poor development, this caused thousands of sub-postmasters to be convicted and go to jail, caused loss of jobs, bankruptcy, divorce, prison sentences that were false imprisonment, and one person even committed suicide. And people pled guilty, hoping that they would be given a slap on the wrist. It's crazy because they know that they didn't do it, but such fear for the legal system, you have that whole entity that's coming at you, and they pled guilty. So in September 2020, the post office declared it would not expose 44 postmasters' appeals against conviction, but it unsuccessfully opposed their appeal against improper prosecution. In December 2020, 6 summary jurisdiction convictions were quashed, and in April 2021, the Court of Appeal quashed a further 39 convictions. The court made the rare finding that the post office had acted in such a way as to subvert the integrity of the criminal justice system and public confidence in it. The prosecution were found to be an abuse of the process and an affront to the conscience of the court. By relatively rare findings, and the appellants were completely exonerated. The BBC called the convictions the UK's most widespread miscarriage of justice. In April 2021, Post Office Chief Executive Nick Reed announced that the Horizon system would be replaced with a new cloud-based IT system. So let's read a little bit about the Horizon computer system and some of the problems it caused, and then we can wrap it up because we don't need to go into all the details of the litigation. We mostly care about the software bug and how it affected all these people, And trust me, like for these people to go through the litigation of exonerating themselves after being falsely convicted, it's not cheap either, right? And it's very time consuming, be very discouraging as well, because when you didn't commit a crime, but or whatever the case may be, not necessarily not only even a crime. If you know you didn't do something and now you have to vigorously defend yourself over what you know you're being falsely accused of, it is very draining and tiring, because you have to like now you have to pull out evidence to prove that you didn't do something, which it's not that easy, right? So the Horizon computer system. The Horizon computer system cost £1 billion and was designated by ICL/Fujitsu Services. After a lengthy competitive procurement exercise begun in 1994, the contract for further development and full implementation in all post offices was awarded in May 1996 to ICL's Pathway Division, which had been created for the purpose. In 1999, 4 years later, and 700 million taxpayers' money after the pilot scheme began, the government, by now Labor, stopped the scheme in its tracks. The Department of Social Security withdrew from the deal, leaving ICL/Fujitsu to run the system. ICL subsequently criticized the PFI payment criterion. It would have been paid partly on how many customers post offices attracted. Stuart Sweetman, the then group managing director of the customer and banking services of Consignia, the name used at the time by the then holding company for Post Office Counters Ltd, Parcel Force, and Royal Mail, said in 2001, looking back, I think it was overambitious. You can't export all the risk to a supplier. On April 8th, 2021, after the problems had caused scandal, Post Office Chief Executive Nick Reed announced that the Horizon system would be replaced by a new IT system that would be more user-friendly, easier to adapt for new products and services, and cloud-based to ensure easy maintenance and ready interoperability with the other systems. He said, it will not be easy. It will, after all, be among the biggest, if not the biggest IT rollout in the country when the time comes. But the changes are both necessary and overdue. All right. So now we're just going to read the problems and then we are going to wrap this up because this is a very interesting story. But like I said, we do not need to get into all the litigation details. We just want to know what the software bug was, right? So the problems. Subpostmasters began to report computer errors to the post office within weeks of the Horizon systems being installed via the helpline the subpostmasters were instructed to use. The post office resisted the subpostmasters' reports of defaults in the system, insisted that the subpostmasters make up any shortfall of money, and when asked by the subpostmaster, denied that the other subpostmaster had reported any problems. In 2000, there were 6 shortfall convictions that relied on Horizon data. 41 subpostmasters were prosecuted in 2001 and 64 in 2002. In May 2002, shopkeeper Balhit Sethi raised concerns with the press that they were totally refuted, that the system was faulty, and it had sent experts to check twice. In around 2000, problems with the system were reported to Alan Bates, the subpostmaster at Craig E. Dunn, from March 1998 until November 2003. In 2003, Bates had his contract as subpostmaster terminated when he refused to comply with the post office policy. He reported his concerns to Computer Weekly in 2004. Sufficient evidence had been gathered by 2009 to publish it. A campaign group on the issue, Justice for Subpostmasters Alliance, was formed by Bates and others in September 2009. By 2012, concerns of the media and amongst a number of members of parliament had grown. As a result, an independent investigative firm, Second Sight, was commissioned by the post office to conduct a separate independent inquiry in 2012. At around this time, Paula Vanels became CEO of the post office. All right. See if there's anything else in here. I think we're good here. All right. All right. So this is a very interesting bug, right? It didn't go into exact detail what caused this actual bug to happen, but essentially the problem was the software was buggy. Like, it wasn't properly tested, it wasn't properly developed, and that therefore it was causing information to be missing. If anybody's seen the movie Office Space, right? This reminds me of the scheme that they were running where they were like shaving a penny off of all transactions, and then the amount of money they were making started to blow up. You know, they were stealing, but that software bug that they exploited, right? It's kind of sounds similar like this. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the British Post Office did anything illegal on purpose or anything like that. However, the way that they wholeheartedly defend this software, that I don't see any particular reason to. Maybe because they were paying $1 billion for it, they felt that they must use it. But when software causes you to go to jail, Houston, we have a problem, right? But I'm happy to see that more investigation was done, and then these people started being released. These subpostmasters, their convictions were being overturned because there was more time to they investigated. They didn't just take the word of the software developers or the company that developed the software. They actually investigated and they found the flaws. They found the loopholes. They found that this software is not as safe as you say it is, and they had to do the rollbacks, and they had to, they had to walk it back. I mean, a lot of people lost like 15 years of their lives and stuff like that. Like, imagine the person who committed suicide to find out that they were that the post office got it wrong, and the company that the software bugs that were created is what caused him to ultimately take his own life, right? So it can be rough. I would say that creating proper software and testing software properly, it is crucial, because as we can see here from just a software bug, right, that the post office denied was happening, it sent many people to prison, and including one person to take their own life, right? So we have to be careful with how we develop software and how we test software, because we never know the overall impact that it can have on somebody's life. And I do not want to be responsible for somebody taking their own life or somebody dying because I did not properly and adequately test software. So, or design or develop software, right? So this has been another episode of The Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live, and to notified every time that we release new content, right? And like the video, share the video, and of course check out the Patreon, where I have exclusive content in there just for you, so that I can be able to connect with you. I can be able to help you level up to the next step, and check out the opportunities to have one-on-one coaching calls with me, whether it's for 2 hours a month or whether it's for 30 minutes a month. Check it out. And I'm sure that I can add great value into your life, help you strategize, help you plan, help you win. All right. So that's the plan. But until next time, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.